Hello and welcome back to episode 33 of the Reseller Clickbait podcast. Leanne and Blake, how are you today?
Very well, thank you, Octo. Yes.
We haven't decided. We were just talking before we went live. We haven't decided on a name yet, so we're poaching the Reseller Clickbait podcast. So we'll go for that one this week. And what were your suggestion, Blake?
Well, because we're terrible resellers, I kept saying cash to trash just to rip off the trash to cash. But
that's right. That's right. Well, we can't be any worse than those guys. So maybe, yeah. But I do have a habit of buying things that probably don't turn out to be profitable as they should be. So maybe that does fit us more. What about you, Leanne? What you're the one that started this conversation.
Well, yes, because I keep nagging you, the two of you, every week that we need to do something about the name so we can change the logo instead of having the big red cross. And inevitably every week goes past and we don't do it. So,
I reckon we just have a running gag where we just steal everyone else's name. So next week will be the Trash to Cash. Then we can be the Pocket Change podcast. Then the Pure Hustle podcast. It's literally an endless supply of podcast names. And they get a free shout out, and we steal their name, and we don't have to change our logo. But I do admit our number one fan, Graham, the Aussie nurse flipper, he hasn't provided us a new name for a couple of weeks, so I blame him.
Yep, Graham, all your fault. Yes.
That's right. So anyway, that's right. Yeah. So a bit of required viewing for this episode. So this episode, we're sliding into the second week of what we're going to speak about: what to do outside of eBay and side hustles, and what to do if you get suspended and all those different things. So we've been talking about that last week, haven't we, Leanne? You remember what we spoke about?
I do remember what we spoke about. Yes.
What about you, Blake? I'm going to give Blake a pick. So unlike Blake, the Octopus is well prepared. I actually listened to the episode on 2x speed this morning.
It's a miracle in itself that you actually went back and watched an episode.
That's right. Yeah. So it was easy to do because it was only the last 15 minutes are actually worth anything. No, I'm only joking. It's all the way through. Don't listen to the last 15 minutes. But if this is the first episode you've slithered it across, I strongly recommend that you go back to last week's episode, episode 1 of this series. Hopefully it's only a 2-part series. We're not going past then, but we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We cut ourselves off at an hour, so we might be having a third part next week. So definitely go into that. That gives you the kind of the background and also a couple of things that we spoke about last week. We spoke about monetizing your time. So basically, if you've got an expertise, potentially look at about specializing into that. What we did bring up was the MyPost Business Buddy. I got it right that time, Leanne. Thank you.
You did.
So basically, that's currently a free service. If you had the smarts, you could probably turn it into a subscription-based service. Humans are time poor. That was another point we made. So basically, see what you can do to provide service to that. Look at passive income. We'll be speaking a little bit about that today because I know Blake wants to get on his high horse and talk about drop shipping. That's right. Yeah. So anyway, but further to watching last week's episode, and I'll put the link in there. Well, who am I joking? I probably won't because I'll forget. But if I do remember, by all means, jump in and watch last week's episode first. But I'd like to give a big shout out, and I did it on Thursday as well, and didn't get any reciprocated love, which is quite of a bit of a shame, but nonetheless. But definitely do recommend checking out the Reseller Clickbait podcast, especially last week's episode, and I will remember to put that in the description because Ken and Corey, I'm pretty sure it's Corey. I'm going to read it down. Yes. I'm still getting over my calamari 19 brain. They spoke very eerily along the same lines of us. What about side hustles and all those different things? But what they actually spoke about was next level from my capacity. That they were talking about a lot of things that, like I said in last week's live, is would like them to go a little bit further as to what they're talking about, like just to push the edge. But what they were talking about complements our episode very well. So, like I said, by all means, slither across there. I'll put that in the description and just check that video out as well. But before we, before we waste any more time, how much have you been this weekend, Leah? How have you been this weekend?
So my eBay is actually going quite well at the moment, and so is Depop, I have to say. And on that, look, I have raised my promotion level a little bit. to help with that, because what I've started doing with my books, with my lower end books, like the lower value books that I've got here, that I was going to have to spend the time to make bundles. But instead of doing that, I've actually started doing what you call variation listings, where you can list a lot of different books that are, say, either by the same author or the same genre type thing. And I'm putting those into variation listings and doing them in a way that people can then build their own bundles, because quite often you make a bundle and you get the request from the buyer, oh, but I only want book number 3. Can I have that out of the bundle? And you don't want to be splitting your bundles. So this way, I feel like, and there'll be, so they don't only have to choose, so they'll buy 2 books and get 1 free, and they don't only just have to choose from the books that are in that specific variation listing. They can choose from all the variation listings for their 3 books. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I normally use variation listings as well. Like we were talking about before, I'm going to talk about my favorite subject, Skylanders. Skylanders is perfect for variation listings. Hot Wheel cars, Matchbox cars, lump them into, don't mix them like Hot Wheels and Matchbox and Thomas the Tank Engines and all those different things. Potentially just list them under the umbrella as like Thomas the Tank Engine and have a list of all your Thomas the Tank Engine and all these different things. And same with Matchbox and Hot Wheel cars. But realistically, if they're the same theme, excuse me, I probably wouldn't have thought of doing it like Leanne has regarding the books and the genres and all those different things. Manga, by all means, like some manga series have over 1,000 books. Like not that many, but like it feels like that many. And it'd be perfect for variation listings, like Leanne was talking about before we went live, was that you could create a listings for a manga series that's quite popular called Fruits Basket. And I think there's about 50 volumes. And I went to off Spark, I went to the Canberra Lifeline Book Fair on the weekend, and I found a whole bunch of them there. And you potentially just create one variation listing from them, and then just drop down and click those different things and the ones that you want and the ones that you need. But what like Leanne was saying is that they also help with postage as well. Like, you pick your own bundles and all those different things, and it caps the postage. And that's probably the biggest thing for what I find in variation listings to help with the sale. So
yeah, and also I think it's perfect if you've got a book series, right? But you haven't got all the consequential, like all the sequential numbers. So it works really well for that, because I know with my bundles generally, if I've say got book. Even if I haven't got book 1, it doesn't really matter. As long as I've got book 2, 3, 4, that will actually sell quite well. But if I've only got book 2, book 4, book 6, they don't actually do as well. So the variation listing works really well for that, because people can choose which ones they want and add them to their own bundle. And then by offering that incentive of buy 2, get 1 free, works really well. These are all low-end books that have probably cost me 50 cents, 20 cents, anything. A lot of them I've gotten for free. So it's not a big cost of goods for me to do that, to do the buy 2, get 1 free. And they're books that possibly, if I wasn't able to make a bundle because I only had one by a specific author, that end up I'd have to donate them back to the op shop or something like that. So this way it gives people a chance to buy them. And like, so with some of them I'm actually doing by the publisher. So I've got like a Mirror romance novels, I've got Avon romance novels, I've got Leisure Books romance novels, because I've got all different authors, but they all look very similar, the books. And if you like that sort of thing, well, then you can just go in and choose what you want.
That's right. What about you, Blake? Do you do variation listings on your facial hair, or just rock up a different week?
Yeah, pick which one you want, and I'll change it. Basically, yeah. No, I don't do variation listings because a lot of my stuff are one-off clothing items that I can't really do variations. And if there's anything where I get like 2 identical items or whatever, I'll probably just sell them as a bundle, or if they're good individually, I'll still split them up. So
yeah, I don't think it's something that works overly well with clothing generally, but does work really well with things like books, as you say, Matchbox cards, anything that sort of sells that you might sell in a bundle together or as a series. But you want to allow people to make their own choices.
I think the key word there is series, right? Like, as long as they're compilable, and like I said, I'll go back to Hot Wheels because heaven forbid I mentioned Skylanders again. That you can basically even like Hot Wheels, you could do them if you had vintage ones, you could probably do them in blocks of decades, 70s, 80s, and all these different ones. then people could go through, like makes of the car, like you might have one for Nissan Hot Wheels or something along that. I'm not too sure. I'm not really au fait with the niche myself, but maybe I should reach out to John the reseller and ask him. But I think that they would be the better ones because to me, and this is, we'll tie back to last week's, we talked about passive income, but to me, variation listings are the closest you can get to passive income on eBay. You front load the paperwork, you front load the work. So basically you take photos, Skylanders again, I take a photo of the front and the back and put it in the variation listing. So when they actually click down the drop down menu, they can see what the Skylander looks like. Then they know they're going to get something along to that. And I have mentioned in previous podcasts and previous lives that if Skylanders have any discrepancies or if they've got any blemishes or anything like, hands missing or parts missing or they're not complete, I'll put them aside and use them to, for marketing purposes, where I just put one in a box of people have bought more than a couple of Skylanders. So the variation listing is that I'm not selling subpar products. Someone buys a Skylander and then I send them one with his hand missing. That's obviously it's going to probably dampen their spirits. But like I said, it's probably the closest you can find to passive income, and it definitely doesn't work with clothes unless you've got
no. I mean, the beauty, and I will say the beauty of them is that it allows you to list a lot. I mean, you've only got, say, in my instance at the moment, I've done 11 individual variation listings, but in those variation listings, I've actually got 98 books already.
That's right.
And essentially I've been able to do that over 2 days. I've listed 98 books that you wouldn't, if you're listing those individually, you'd never be able to list them that quick.
No, that's right. And the best thing about variation listings are what, Blake? Did you listen to last week's episode? We talked about it. No, it's right. So
no. I was going to say, I don't think we mentioned it last week, did we?
No, so the best thing about variation listings, it actually comes up the quantities sold. So, if Leanne's got 1,000 books and she sold 300, we'll say maybe one available, 300 sold or something along to that. Because what it does, it actually goes off individual variation listings. So if you've got Blake's selling T-shirts, but he's actually got we'll talk about drop shipping. He's got a contact with the manufacturer. He can get like a replenishable supply. He can do a variation listing for small, medium, extra large, all these different things. Take a photo of what the shirt looks like, then just basically cycle it from there. But if he's sourcing primarily from the thrift store, a variation listing, you're wasting your time. It's not going to work, and it's going to cause you heartache.
That's when I did used to use variation listings. Is when I actually did used to drop ship through eBay a few years ago. I used to have I think they were just like Pokemon plush things, and I had a contact overseas sort of thing basically, and I had a variation for all different characters and that kind of thing. That used to work quite well too.
And what but sorry to cut you off, Blake, but what I suppose the purpose of that, what would have worked for Blake in his favor is that little red box next to it says that 3,000 sold or 4,000 sold or whatever it is, like how we've done different things.
I wish it was that many.
I try to talk you out to make you sound confident, Blake.
And that was why I raised my promotions a bit, because when I got some friends of mine actually in the Discord, they got on and searched did a general search for those books. So I was down a little bit, and so we worked on the titles. I worked really hard on getting the right title to get to be there to come up for them, and also then by raising my promotions just that little bit, it's brought me up. So now my books are coming up first, second, third, in that top section. So I'm got a chance to sell them.
And you'll also find, and I keep harping on about the sold listings, is that when you sell more of that product, eBay will favor that listing because it's got that sales history. You've got the positive feedback and all those different things. So it'll naturally float to the top anyway. So would I do it on books personally? Probably not. I'd probably, this is my opinion. I'd do it on manga without a doubt because, I know what I'm doing in that perspective. But Leanne knows her niche. Like I said, that, just because I don't know what I'm doing doesn't mean you shouldn't. But to me, I would be focusing on toys if you've got like a bulk lot of Hot Wheels, or you got a bulk lot of Matchbox toys, or Thomas the Tank Engine.
Like my bulk lot of Wooshies.
Wooshies are perfect for it. And I'm actually in the process of probably releasing a short today about the Coles Pokemon cards. And that would be another perfect example of a variation listing. If you just drop down and select the carrier you want, and off you go. So,
definitely.
But variation listings. We got off sidetrack again. So obviously, we didn't learn anything from last week. But so I've got a bit of a list of what I want to speak about this week, and we'll probably have to slide into next week as well. Yeah, dreaded part 3.
So one thing I do want to say is that it's so a lot of people talk about doing eBay or being a reseller, whether it's Depop, eBay, wherever you're selling, Macari, whatever, Amazon, as a side hustle to their full-time job, right? So a lot of people do it as a side hustle. For those of us that are actual full-time resellers, it's actually, it's become really quite evident to me that it's a very good idea to have a side hustle to your full-time job that is not reselling or not, something a little bit different. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100% is, because when you do become a full-time reseller and quit your job, that full-time reselling is becoming your job. So basically it's the same as having a side hustle to your full-time job. It's basically the exact same thing if you have time for it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, and I know a lot of people, my beloved auction professor spruiks it all the time, is that you need to be self-motivated. Like, if you need someone to tell you what to do, or if you're not a motivated person and you like to sleep into midday, it's probably not going to work for you, because whilst yes, you can pick your hours and all these different things, but you do have other things going on, especially if you've got a family and all these different things. So you can't really say, I'll sleep into lunchtime, do some listings for 3 hours, and I'll make $15,000 a week. That's a pipe dream. Unless you're doing Uncle Blake's drop shipping method. But
this was years ago, Octo.
Yes, don't get me started on drop shipping. Yeah, drop shipping is down the list, so we are going to talk about that, and we'll talk about how lucrative it was for Blake and how horrible it was for me. But like I was saying, like Leanne was saying, is that you need a side hustle to complement your side hustle. If you even, I would even go far as to say, if you had a full-time job and you're doing eBay on the side, I'd probably use eBay's funds to redirect into other business ventures, either where shares or reinvesting in different things, or even potentially reinvesting into things that we're going to talk about today. So, what's your first one you want to talk about, Leanne? I'll give you a dealer's choice.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Well, the first thing I'm going to talk about is my new side hustle. So I've actually got 2 new side hustles that I'm working on at the moment, which are hopefully, what are you doing? Hopefully going to
cross off the list. I've got a list. I've got to cross them off.
Which will both hopefully work in the long term. They'll be passive income for me. Okay, so that's the why I'm working on it. So the first one is, as you know, like people would have heard me mention before, that I've started a second YouTube channel, which is Grumpy Granny Reads, which I am reading the bedtime stories in. So this second side hustle goes along with that. And what it is actually making books, children's books, creating children's books. So I came across a YouTube video, and I'm actually going to have a go at following what they tell you to do and see how that goes. So they're using AI to create the images. They're using ChatGPT to create the text, and Leonardo AI to do the actual images, because most of the basic, like your Bing and the other sort of basic image generators, you can't actually say, I really like that image. Can you make some more pictures like that to go with my story? Whereas on Leonardo, you can. It'll give it the idea. It'll come up with some selections. You can pick which one you want, and then you can tell it, well, okay, I need images for this, this, and this, but it needs to match the first one. So that's where that's going to go. And then using Canva to create, once you've got the image, use Canva to then put the text on and stuff. Now, if you don't have a subscription to Canva, you can still, there's a free part of that. You can use a lot of the stuff on there for free. I've already got a subscription to Canva anyway, because I use it for my thumbnails and so much other stuff. So it'll be good, because I'll be able to access more, upgraded things on that. And I already have the story. I just have to tell ChatGPT or whichever AI I decide to use, and I might put it in 3 or 4 and just see what generates, because they all give you different answers. So basically, after I told a lot of people on one of my live streams one night the story about the bedtime story I was told as a child, which is how I knew that I was adopted. So I've always known. I've never not known that I was adopted. It's just common, thing. But my mum and dad told me the story about how they went to the baby home and they walked around all the room that had all the pink cots, and until they got. It's a bit long and more protracted than this, but this is the short version. They walked around all the pink cots until they saw me. They looked at all the other babies, but then they saw me and they just knew they had to take me home. So I always felt that I was specially
baby shopping.
Yeah, wow. I always felt that I was specially chosen, not given a reject shot. Yeah, not rejected by my birth mum. So, and a few people have said what a wonderful story. They would love to use that for in their own instance, or kids that are in care that have been taken out they're in foster care. So I can do a version of it for that as well. And I think that, so I've got the storyline and I've just got to get cracking on.
But because I know we spoke about that before on the podcast group chat that we've got, and that's a fantastic idea. And like you said, it's a passive income of sort. Yeah, you have to. There's no such thing as passive income, right? Like, you're never going to click a link and then all of a sudden it'll just start generating this magic money, all these different things. Like what Leanne was saying, is like a little bit of work at the front end. All these. If it was easy, it's not. Everyone would be doing it. I think that's the subscription model that I normally subscribe to. But like Leanne was saying, you just do the front end stuff. But like she's got the fundamentals of the story that she wants to tell, and the Chat GPT and the other AI products are doing it for her, which is fantastic, and it also provides a I suppose an alternative method for people that have adopted a child to break news to them if that way, and all those different things, and probably in a more softer approach, and probably that I probably could.
Well, put it this way, it's better than finding out that you're sick when you're 16 years old and your parents or some relative says to you, something about your birth parents, and you've got no idea that you're adopted. That's not ideal.
I'm still waiting to hear that, because my parents aren't octopuses, so I'm still waiting to hear about if I was adopted or not. And I had friends personally. I had a friend that in high school that found out because we did a blood test. Because back in those days that science would tell you what blood type you had, and he had a blood type that was incompatible with his parents. So it was if he was a birth child, he would have had either or of those blood types. So that was an interesting conversation.
And that's the biggest issue, because people don't it was never recommended to tell kids. My parents were unusual because they did, and so everything was sort of kept hush hush. And then something happens in later on in life. My gosh, how horrible is that? So
I had a friend that was adopted too. He found out because he's Asian and his parents were both white. So you figure that one out pretty quick.
But no, like I said, and there's not necessarily a money grabbing aspect for that, because a lot of people just associate resellers with robbing the poor and doing all these different things, but there's also that aspect that you can help people, like you said, that Leanne's generating income from herself, but she's also providing that expertise that she's been through that situation, and she's providing it's probably a horrible way to turn it, like get out of jail free card for the parents that don't know how to do that, because like I said, that you probably wouldn't want to grab the Octo's guide, the Octo's dummy guide to telling your kids you're adopted 101 or something like that. I wouldn't recommend that, but it's definitely good, and that you do the work at the front end, and you can obviously go from that way. So that's good.
It's got potential to help a lot of people.
Well, that's right, and that's exactly right. And this
I
is
want
the
to read
things
it.
you need to look for.
So according to Amazon, the Scout extension, which sort of tells you what books sell well on Amazon, there's a book called How to Catch a Dinosaur. And I've seen it. Everyone's probably seen it in the kids' books. And that's actually currently generating about $1,300 a month. And I'm presuming that's US. That book was created doing this same thing. It's just a matter of having the idea of the story, and then you can get all the things that you've got available to help you make it.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right. Well, my favorite book at the moment that I'm learning to read is My Unicorn Farts Glitter. So keep an eye out for that on the Grapple Granny Reads channel. So that's obviously so that's your book prospect and your YouTube.
Hmm.
I'll throw it over to Blake now because he can't. He's wetting himself in anticipation. So what do you want to talk about, Blake?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Really?
He was your leading for drop shipping, but
whatever. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid it because I feel like I'm going to get slammed.
Oh, you are. But no, I'm curious to see what your thoughts on drop shipping are. Like I said, that I'm not going to, I'm not here to tell people that, what works and what doesn't work for them, because every situation is different. Like we touched on this last week, So, Granny might bring out her book that she's doing and it might fly off the shelf. And, I might bring out one how I'm planning on taking over the world, and they might, it might flounder. So just know your audience. But I suppose, Blake, what do you want to talk about drop shipping?
What do I want to talk about with it? Oh, I don't know. Just sort of, it is an option for people. But
you've obviously had previous experience with it, so perhaps tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, well, so my whole eBay journey actually started with drop shipping, and I'm going to straight up say that I would not recommend drop shipping on eBay. It's not probably the best thing to do.
My angle.
They've got, I didn't say I'm going to go, woo, drop shipping. There's a reason I don't do it anymore. But it's something I'm going to look back into. But eBay's got very strict guidelines when it comes to that kind of thing. And especially when you don't physically have the product as well, it leaves you open to a lot of negative feedback from customers and different stuff with like shipping times and all that kind of thing. But I started just pretty much back then. They didn't have a lot of different softwares and stuff that helps a lot of drop shippers. So I was pretty much just getting stuff from AliExpress, selling it and getting AliExpress to ship it over. And that could take like 30, 40 days to actually get there. And I had that a lot.
Perhaps, Blake, before you go any further, you might actually explain to the boys and girls what drop shipping is, because I know I didn't know what it.
You stole my punch, Granny. I was going to say you stole my punch. I was going to tell them what it was.
Basically, you act as a middleman, pretty much. So you list something that is already, or you try and sell something that's produced by somewhere else. They'll buy it off of you, and then you'll buy it off of the merchant. So a customer will buy it off of you, you'll buy it off the merchant, but instead of you sending it to yourself or having the stock on hand, you'll buy it directly from the merchant and send it to the customer. So you're basically acting as a middleman, and you hopefully raise the price to a point where you keep a bit of that income, a bit of that money coming forward. So it's pretty straightforward. It's good for people that don't have a lot of room. But there's a lot of negatives sort of associated with it, I guess.
I guess you haven't got a lot of control then, have you, either? That's the thing, over the postage and, all that sort of thing.
There's a lot of different things. Like now there's different websites. I know CJ Drop Shipping is one. There's a couple of things. They actually have warehouses in Australia and stuff. So if you do that, it'll get to your customer within like 4 to 10 days or something like that, which is a lot more reasonable. There are a lot more different options and stuff for people these days than when I did it. But I wouldn't do it on eBay. But I guess the main one that people would have seen if they've looked into it at all is through Shopify, where you'll actually create a storefront and then advertise it through Facebook ads or TikTok ads or something like that. But that can get very expensive too. And I did have that at one point. I did create a store and that kind of thing. Spent a few $100s in ad spend, which isn't a lot to get started with it. Made a few sales and stuff, but overall I decided it wasn't really for me at that time. But it's definitely something that I'll probably look back into in the future, because there is a lot of different things, especially with like the emergence of TikTok and that being such a big thing through like TikTok ads and that. It's been shown to be pretty effective for that kind of thing, and creating a store. But I definitely wouldn't do it through eBay again.
Yeah, plus you've got experience now, like a lot more experience as a reseller. I think if you say the old adage, if you knew then what you know now.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's basically there's a software that pretty much automates the whole thing now too. I think it's not sponsored or anything yet. Auto DS, I think it's called. But that basically it'll link to your store or into the merchant and that sort of thing. And as soon as a sale comes through, that'll automatically execute the purchase and the sale and the address and everything. So you can pretty much not do anything. basically through the whole process, which is good.
You can also link it to your YouTube channel too.
Can you?
And do little ads in the middle of your YouTube channel for it. Like if
yeah. Yeah,
like
through that if you want
people
to.
do with their own merch. Like,
Yeah, definitely. No, there's heaps of different options now, which I'd be keen to investigate in the future. But I'm not going to openly say that it's a great thing for everyone, it's worth a try, I guess, if it's something you want to do. But it's one of those things that there's a lot of gurus in the space. If you YouTube that kind of thing, you'll see a lot of false people doing that kind of thing. So it's also a pretty scummy area.
The impression I get too is it's one of those areas. You want to say something, Octo? It's one of those areas that you need to look into it properly and know what you're doing before you start. Just like people should look into know what they're doing before they start reselling on eBay.
Yeah,
all right.
100%.
So now's my turn because I know drop shipping back to front. So I probably know pretty much what Blake said not to do. I have done. So a little bit background story on a young octopus. So I paid $300 US to do a dropshipping course, and to say the least, it was garbage. And that's my strong aversion to courses. Fun fact. So that's where my course came from. So that's why I don't like courses. Not to say that if they are, like I said, if you like I said last week, if you're supplying what you're saying, good for gold, go, have no problems with that. But this is a complete garbage. And it was this course was further re-amplified with another YouTuber. So these are all international courses, no one in Australia. So another YouTuber that I watched religiously said, hey, look, this course is fantastic. Jump on board, do all these different things. Yeah, you'll make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So on the back of their recommendation, I jumped into the course. The course was complete garbage, right? So the course was basically aimed at drop shipping from Walmart, Home Depot, and all these different things to eBay and to Amazon, right? And you also had access to a Facebook group, and you had access to like a website login where you could converse with all these different things. And what I found, the creator of the course was very absent. Like what I was finding was that a lot of their responses was general topics. So it was pretty much being ran through a VA service, right? So the VA was providing recommendations. So did that different thing. So long story short, I did it on eBay. Obviously didn't drop ship from Walmart or didn't drop ship from Home Depot and all those different things. So, but I used Catch of the Day. So what I normally did was I was, found a product on Catch of the Day, and then I was redirecting it, not to the Octopus account, but to a different account. Then doing, obviously drop shipping from that perspective. So what Blake was saying is that you're inserting yourself into the transaction. So Leanne could go to Catch of the Day, buy a product for $10, and have it shipped directly to her. So what I was doing is Leanne was coming to my eBay store, buying that product for $20. I'd go to Catch of the Day, buy it for $10, and ship it directly to Leanne. So I'd pocket maybe $4 or $5 profit on that transaction, right? So, and because I had it was called One Pass, but it was basically, if you think of it like kind of a frequent flyer perspective or something like that, it's like Amazon Prime would probably be the best way of looking at it, right? So I had the Amazon Prime equivalent for Catch of the Day. So what was happening is when Leanne would order, because I had that Amazon Prime element, it would be free upgrade to Express. So Leanne would be exorbitantly happy. But the problem was that these parcels were arriving in Catch of the Day boxes. So, or Costco. I was actually drop shipping from Costco as well, and that was like another thing. But to say, I was making ludicrous amounts of money, yes, I was. but that was a very, very, like I said, that, we might have people in the comments saying, well, hey, look, you attribute that to the course, $300 US, which was about $500 back in the day. But I suppose that course provided no more information than if I had to watch the YouTube video and found dropshipping through that way. So like I said, that the course was, it brought awareness of dropshipping, but it didn't give me the guidelines. So I pretty much pieced all the, like I said last week, I was into process mapping and how I could actually, provide that further support for the customer and all these different things. But what I was finding is that, Catch of the Day loved me for starters. I think I had like over 6,000 transactions in the space of 6 months or something like this. I was getting flyby points, so frequent fly points. I was raking out like all those different things. But the biggest thing with that is that eBay were constantly sending me messages saying, "Hey, look, we know you're shipping from Canberra, you're shipping from the Bermuda Triangle, but why are all your parcels leaving from Melbourne?" So I was constantly having to justify. Having to justify to eBay saying, "Hey, look, well, I've got a grandmother that works in Melbourne. She takes care of my storage shed down there, and she ships the products out for me." Oh, yeah, that's no fine. Like I said, it was all bullshit stories and all these different things. But I didn't really worry too much about that. But the thing I found in the States, and this is a very dire warning to those in the States that are looking at doing drop shipping, is that probably 9 out of 10 of those accounts the people that were in that group were getting banned and permanently suspended on eBay. So, like we said in earlier episodes, your eBay account is worth its weight in gold. Like Tech Sports. So, your eBay account could be worth $10 million over the life of it, over the life of the store. But these people were basically being permanently shut down because of dropshipping being against eBay policy. And there's ways around the eBay policy, like legally. That like what Blake was saying is that if he reached out to a supplier that and had an agreement with them and say, "Hey, look, we're going to go into an agreement where you fulfill the product and I'll be your I suppose they're the distributor and you're the person that for all those different things." Like eBay doesn't have a problem with that, but what they do has a problem is when you're drop shipping from Amazon, you're drop shipping from Costco, you're drop shipping from Catch of the Day and all these different things. Like I'm saying, that would I do it again? There's no disputing. I made a fair bit of money, right? There's no disputing that. But the fact of the matter is, I was probably walking a very, 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 very fine line for 6 months when I was doing it. Because, like I said, my account could have been closed or was permanently suspended at any time. Catch of the Day, could have banned my account from that perspective. So I would have had all these orders outstanding that I couldn't provide. So then obviously that would have a flow-on effect to eBay when I had to do the transaction defects and all these different things. Constantly worrying about if that product was in stock because, what Blake was talking about, when I was going to interject because I didn't think he could remember the name, but we used to use AutoDS, but AutoDS didn't gel with Catch of the Day, right? So, and you also had competitors that would come down and try and undersell you by 2 cents. So, you need to, there's all these different things that come into consideration with drop shipping, especially from, big box stores and all these different things. But what, like Blake was saying, that if you're moving to AliExpress, which I wouldn't recommend on its own, because you need to look into trademarking, right? And I want to talk about white labeling, but we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. So if you're buying reversible octopuses, for example, and try and sell them on eBay, that they're actually trademarked by a company called T-Turtle. So if you try and sell them on eBay, you're probably going to get a Vero. And if you're drop shipping them from AliExpress, it's probably not too bad. But if you're bringing them across in quantity, like 200, 300, 500, you could potentially run into problems that perspective as well. But
it can be very dangerous doing it through eBay, and that's why if I do it again, I will create my own store for single products and stuff. But another way, I was going to mention it before, and it's something I could look into on a different store to sort of do it, which sort of negates the whole drop shipping thing, is you can actually use it to test products and see what actually will sell. So if you put up this thing and you end up selling like 10 or 12 units in a relatively short amount of time, you could be like, okay, this is a pretty good product. What I'm going to do is I'm going to order 100 units to my place and then fulfill the orders myself. So it can be a good way to do it. And then, it is coming from the place. It is not technically drop shipping, but it's it's very hands off as well, because you've been able to test that product without actually having to buy a heap of them straight off the bat. So of course, be careful with that kind of thing, but that is one good thing you can do.
So the benefit of dropshipping, I'm just going to interject there, Blake. Sorry, the purpose of dropshipping is to remove that postage element, because what Blake just basically said then, where he imports the product, is that he's actually paying postage twice. And that's what dropship does. It obviously avoids you holding the inventory and also avoids you having to pay the double handling postage charge. What Blake was saying as well is, test the product by all means. And that's what I used to do as well when I was using Catch of the Day. I'd probably buy 5 products. So then, worst case scenario, if it went out of stock, I had stock on hand that I could probably punch it out from that perspective. So that's, if you are pursuing drop shipping, I highly don't recommend it if you're brand new. But if you know what you're doing, go for gold. I'm not going to tell you one way or another. But at least have 5 or 10 units on stock, so that if you do run into a hurdle, you do have something to do. You will take a haircut on the profit margin. You probably will lose money on those products, but you won't. It won't affect your account if you're down the eBay route. So,
and it's a good way to do it too, because then even if you just order 1 or 2 units or whatever, then you know what you're selling. Because otherwise you're just selling something blindly. You don't know the quality of it. You could be selling to 20 different people an absolute pile of rubbish. So if you have it and you know it, then you actually know a bit about the product that you're selling. Same as we do with, the eBay reselling, is you've got the product on hand, you know what you're selling. So you can actually somewhat stand behind that product without just being like, oh yeah, this product's great, when it could just really not be.
And I will have to say that's something I've been doing. I've been actually getting some samples from a couple of different places of new stuff, because I'm looking at also having some sort of replenishable items in my store that are new, replenishable, that they'll be listings I can just put up and like not set and forget, but like pretty much let them work on their own. So I have been getting in a few different things, and you don't know, like the quality. Like a couple of things I've gotten when they've arrived, I thought, wow, these are so good for the money. But then a couple of other things I've thought, oh my God, like just as well I did buy some of them to resell, because they would have been a disaster.
Yeah, and then 100%. I suppose the products that I was reselling were known brand things like glass house candles, I suppose medical supplies. I'll leave it at that. So stuff that that has that brand reputation behind it. So you weren't selling miscellaneous junk off AliExpress and all those different things.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
But the thing, like Blake was saying, is knowing your product's a very big thing in the reselling space, especially if you want to build some credibility and build your brand from that perspective. Is that if you're selling, like Leanne was saying, importing batteries, for example, and then when they arrive they're all battery acid or corroded, all those different things, you wouldn't want them to be drop shipped to your customers, because they won't come back to you, because they'll just leave a negative feedback and off you go. But at least having like Blake was saying as well, is having a batch sent to you, you can check for quality assurance and see how they are. Having a decent batch sent to you, like 100 units, I'm not going to say 100, maybe 10 or 15, 20, gives you a range of that quality assurance, because you don't necessarily want to buy 2 units and they're perfect. Then if you had bought 20, the other 18 would have been like completely cactus or rubbish and all these different things. So you need to look from that perspective. But if you are drop shipping and all these different things, definitely know your product first, because your reputation's potentially at stake.
And I do have to say, I feel there is, doing it that way, and depending on where you're ordering from, of course, there is a bigger risk of not such a great customer experience the other end. I mean, I'm just going on the stuff that I have bought as samples, as I said. The way it's arrived is just, it boggles me.
Yep.
Like this, it's all just, shoved into a, well, here's an example of one of the ones. So, like, look at the box.
Yep.
So if that was
you buy an accordion?
Yeah. If that was something that I was going to sell on, like, and all the boxes arrived like that, because everything was just shoved in a big vinyl mailer. But this was all the boxes of these, these are glasses, right? So, I mean, luckily they didn't break, but that's not very nice to be sending out to your customers. No. So you've got to worry that if that's how they're going to get sent out to there. So,
yeah, I had the same thing. I had one product which worked really well, and you wouldn't think it was just an unbranded thing, but it was a fish scaler, but it had a dome on it that would actually catch all the scales, so you wouldn't have scales flicking everywhere. It was a good product, and obviously I got that from China and shipped it over, and the shipping time and that wasn't too bad. And I sold a lot of them. I made a lot of money off of them, but I kept getting reports from people that they're broken. They're broken. So I ordered a couple of units myself to see, and all the ones I arrived either had a smash or a cracked plastic dome on it, because the way they were sending them, they were just getting absolutely obliterated in the mail.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm going to stop selling this myself, because it was a great product, but just the supplier I was using. And in hindsight, I would have just found a different supplier to use, and hopefully that would have been better, because it was... I started selling a lot of units every day, but it just wasn't working out with the way they were sending it. So you got to be careful, and it is good to order some yourself to see exactly how they're shipping things over.
And I suppose that, do you have anything to close on drop shipping before I move on to another subject, Leah? Well, you had something to say.
Oh, no. No, not on drop shipping. No.
All right. I was going to move into importing, because I think it's close, and I'll get into what Leanne wants to talk about in a minute. But I've done a little bit of importing, primarily from I suppose retail arbitrage from overseas. I suppose you could probably look from that perspective. I haven't really done much importing from Alibaba. I think it's Alibaba's the bigger one, isn't it, Blake?
Yeah.
So AliExpress, where you buy single units, for example, drop shipping is synonymous with AliExpress, right? So, like, however, if Blake wanted to, be the kingpin of fish scaling products in Australia, go to Alibaba and tee up with a distributor over there and probably get like 5,000 units sent over and sell them from that perspective. So that's something that you could probably look into as well. I haven't personally had much experience with that. That's something that I probably want to look at in the next 12 months, and probably one of the experiments that I will run in the store. Like I said last week, is that I want to try and do a couple of these suggestions to see how they work, and my plan is to kind of do it as much close to real time as possible, so that I'll record a video and upload it maybe a couple of days later. But within that week, you've got that visibility of what's going on in that store and how that's performing and all those different things. So, and almost, I'm not going to be like a complete dummy guide on how to build it, but it would be simplistic enough that you can actually follow the steps or get a gist of what I'm doing and try and replicate it if it is successful. So that's what I want to do. But like I said, importing, you've got all these different things, and there's a lot more smarter people than me out there that do importing. Obviously you've got tariffs, and you've got like importing fees and shipping and all these different things you need to take into consideration. That, for example, Ghastly over here, he gets made in China and he actually comes over by boat, or if they need it a lot closer, they'll have to come by air. But the discrepancies between the postal charges on for boats and air is like it could be 100-fold. To send 1,000 of these over might be $50 US on a boat. If it to send over 100 for air, it might be $5,000 US, something along that. So these are things you need to take into consideration. What I will do before I push it over to Leanne is that with my biggest thing that I find, especially with TikTok crazes and all those different things, is those sensory bubble things, those bubble popping things you might have seen, the little plastic things that kids play with. They have a very short shelf life. So be very, 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 very careful jumping onto fads, because as soon as the fads are known, my stance is it's already, the ship's already sailed, it's gone. You kind of need to get a hold of these things before they gain popularity. And what I would suggest as well is, piggybacking from what we spoke about last week, building your audience through YouTube, building your audience through TikTok, as what Blake was saying as well, is that you can always, if you get big enough, you can always set your own trends. You can always make your own products and bring them in and all those different things. So you almost want to be on that influencer level. If you are looking at investing in those products, like, that I've known, there's reversible octopuses, right? Like, they'd probably suit me now. I could probably sell them from my perspective. But, if Blake went out and imported 2,000 reversible octopuses, it's probably not going to work well for him, because the ship's already sailed. That fad's over. It's not in line with his brand, I suppose you could say. So just be very, very, very mindful of, if you see things on TikTok, or, things are flying off the shelf in the shops, you're potentially looking at about a 3 month to 6 month lead time to get them by sea from China. And by then, they're well and truly dead. So just be very, very mindful of that. All right, that's all I have to say on importing. Do you have anything on importing, Blake, you want to mention?
Not really. It's something I've looked into, I guess, and it's something I will continue to look into. But at this current stage, I haven't really dabbled in it that much. I import stuff all the time, like different wholesale stuff for resale and that, but not actual products, not like a batch of 100 or a batch of 1,000 of a certain product. Not something I've really looked into, or something that's for me at this stage. But
what about you, Leanne?
Well, I will say, timing's everything. So, I kind of buggered my timing up. So part of what I did was, and this is one of them, this is not the bestest one, but I actually got myself samples of these, which are scrapers for getting the labels off the books. And then one of the videos I made recently was testing them. And of course, the one that really worked really well, I had gotten a couple of them to try, and they saw how they work, because I had demonstrated them on this thing. And in retrospect, if I'd known that one was going to work, but I didn't, I should have held that video, even though I knew that was going to work by doing the video. I should have not put that video live, because then everybody wanted them, and I didn't have the available stock, because I only had the couple of samples. In retrospect, but then I didn't know that everybody would want them. So Yeah, I am actually going to get a whole heap of those and be selling them in my eBay store. So, yeah. Along with lint rollers, because apparently lint rollers are really popular amongst resellers.
Yeah. But like Blake, for example, Blake being primarily like a clothing reseller, right? And I'll use Leanne as a book reseller for an example. That Blake could probably do like a white label lint roller where he plasters his face all over the lint roller as advertising, and likewise with Leanne, you book scraping things along the lines of that. As long as it's on brand, I suppose you could probably market yourself a lot better. You don't really want to be selling generators or something along that from an aspect, advertising aspect, but.
I guess the things I've looked at selling are things that work alongside what I am already selling, like as in clothing and books. And also because a lot of the people I have contact with through social media are resellers, there is already a bit of a market there because you are showing them what you use and then they might want it. So, that's sort of
you look at the YouTuber in America that I watch a lot, dealing with Dalton. He's got the same sort of thing.
I'm going to track you down because I was just about to cut you off.
You're going to say him?
Blake's friend dealing with Dalton in his shoe trees. Blake, wait a second, Leah. I'm going to do something. I'm just going to do something better. There we go. Now I can talk about Dalton. Go on, Blake. You keep stealing my thunder today.
He's got that. Like, his shoe trees and that. They're, well, I'm not going to say I don't know all his process, but no doubt they're probably a white label product. And he's got, them which he ships out to his supporters and all that kind of thing. But he's got a website that has them. He got his own coupon codes and that. He plugs them in his videos and stuff. He's done a couple of things where he's mentioned it. I think it was his podcast with Ethan. They talk about it a bit. He makes a decent amount of money off them because they're the best shoe trees out there, and they've got dealing with Dalton written on the toe box of them, and they're just your normal generic, shoe trees. But he's labeled that and branded it in a way that, all of his audience want them. It cost me a killing to get them myself, but even I've wanted them for my shoes, and they're just a normal shoe tree. So, there's a lot of potential.
So before I let Leanne talk again, because she's chomping at the bit, I can see her. A false teeth flapping in the wind. But so what I didn't realize, we didn't actually say what white labeling is. So white labeling is if I bring in those reversible octopus plushes, right, then before they arrive in Australia, I have embroidered on them, the Disgruntled Octopus, or I put a little logo on them, those sort of things. So it's basically it's a generic product that, it's made in China mostly. Then you put your branding on top of that, and that becomes your product as such. But you need to be very, 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 very mindful of trademarks. Like I was talking about those reversible octopuses, the trademarks are held by a tea turtle. So I couldn't go out and bring in a whole bunch of these in because I'll get taken to court for copyright violation and trademark violation. So look, if you go to the barber, I don't go with the barber very often with my very polished dome. But you'll find if a lot of the independent barbers are selling their own products, what we call Granny's goo, like Granny's hair goo or something along the lines of that. And there'll be a picture of Leanne on the cover. And what it is, it's a white label product that's made in Japan, in China, and it's all the same product. But Leanne's put her advertising on that one, and Blake's put his advertising on a different one. So it's the same product fundamentally. That's just what white labeling is.
Most products are white label products. Yeah. That's just the reality of it. Most of them are. Like any YouTuber that has merch or whatever, that's just a regular plain T-shirt that's been printed over the top. I did the same thing with my gaming channel stuff. You're gonna say something.
I've got a list of things to talk about. You're killing my list.
Well, if you showed me the list, I would have avoided them.
I showed you earlier.
Sorry.
This is what he gets for not telling us what he's going to talk about, Blake.
Exactly. But I used to sell mugs, glasses. I used to sell mugs, glasses, all that kind of thing. And that through my YouTube channel, it was white labeled or whatever, just a plain normal glass.
Yeah. So just throwing it out there because Leanne's quite old and she'll know what this. What is a pretty good example of a white label product that you might find on a daily basis?
Hunter glass in here?
Oh, what's going on there?
He's having a domestic. That's fine. Carry on.
I'm back.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Continue. I don't know. What do you mean?
Oh, well, I was probably.
I'm showing an example. That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh,
No,
okay.
generic
bringing it
products. So generic products like Frills, your home brand Wheat Bix, and all those different things. They're mostly they're made from the same warehouses that your Wheat Bix are made from. But so basically, what Woolworths does and all the other shopping centres, they make generic home brand versions, which are generic white labels. So.
Yes, and it's one of those things. I always say that when you go, so when Aldi first came, for example. To Australia, and I was going in there and getting some of their products, and I would actually at the start I was buying one of each product so I could try it out because I didn't know what it was like. But my theory was, as soon as you looked on it, if it said it was made in Australia or it was made in such and such a country, and you know that your favorite branded product is always there, also there, those products are going to be made somewhere. And the same with the black and gold, for example, that is sold in IGA supermarkets, which is my local supermarket. Now, they don't have them anymore, but they used to have cheese slices, which were half the price of the regular cheese slices. Now, if you actually put those together and gave someone a piece to try, they're identical. Because someone actually has to make those, black cheese slices, and then they just put them in a different wrapping and make them cheaper.
Yep. So, like with Buller and all that do the same thing. Yep. They're all made in the same factory, and there's like 3 or 4 different brands through the thing. That's what I was getting there. That's my old thing there. It's just a plain generic glass kind of thing there. But I had that put on all of them, and so glasses and mugs and that.
So did you used to do that like that via print to order?
Print on demand.
Print on demand.
It is print on demand. I can't remember the company that I used to use. I can't remember, but there's a lot of them out there. And just did that kind of thing, and people would buy them and it'd go. It's almost like a drop shipping thing in itself, kind of, because you'd buy it off that thing, and they'd send it straight to the customer. I sold. It's weird. A lot of these I sold over, especially the mug version. I sold over to South Africa, which was really strange.
Yeah. They actually have quite a big cult gaming following over there, because our beloved Figsy that's still locked in the dungeon, by the way. A lot of his audience are from South Africa. So hello to those South Africans that are watching.
Hello.
Basically.
Yeah. Well, sorry, South Africans are the one, they probably understand our accents better, because they often do get confused when they meet people from internationally. They do get confused for being Australian because they sound similar-ish.
They do. Right. It's just a little bit off. Yeah. But I guess it makes sense, because when I was doing the gaming, that's when my name on that channel used to be That Aussie Hunter. And I just used to play a hunting game. Most of my hunts were all in Africa. So it makes sense that a lot of my biggest videos were done in Africa, so it makes sense that they'd be like, "Oh, he's that guy that hunts in Africa. I'm going to buy his mug." Like,
Well, before we, because I realise time's getting on, Octo. We've only got less than 2 minutes now. So the one other thing that I am currently looking into, and I have started the process, is that I have actually applied to Amazon to. To be
I cut her off at the wrong section. I was trying to cut you off before I applied to. Then cut you off, but you got Amazon. How about you keep Amazon for next week? Because I got Amazon on the list.
All right.
Talk about it.
Okay.
But so next week we're going into part 3 because Blake was too busy talking about his drop shipping for 4 hours.
Hey.
We still have Depop. We've still got Amazon. We've still got wholesale, which I want to talk about. Print on demand. I want to talk about that because I've actually, like Leanne, I've got an announcement in regards to that. Shopify, online courses, which we touched about. Uber Eats, Uber, white labeling, which we talked about, and all those different things. So we
could just about do an episode for each one of them, because there's a lot to talk about in every.
So I'm going to cut this series at three episodes. So if we miss any out next week, that's it. Leanne.
I will say, though, so next week, all right, let's have a little rule that you're not allowed to mention Skylanders for the whole episode.
Oh, I don't know if I could, because I was going to sell them on Amazon. That's what we'll talk about next week. But I just wanted to do a 2-parter episode. But it looks like we're going to slide into 3. Well, I can use the same thumbnail as the thumbnail 3 weeks in a row, even better. Okay, with a little bit of time. But definitely want to talk about those different things. And like we were saying, is that, with the drop shipping, for example, I was constantly on tenterhooks if my account was going to get suspended and all those different things. So I didn't give it the credit that it deserved from a selling perspective. I was only after a quick buck, which there's like a few of those coming through, but you need to look at it from a longevity perspective. Business isn't a fly by night kind of thing. There are a lot of fly by night businesses, especially the Shopify ones that pop up to a product that they disappear after they take the money and all those different things. But you do need to be mindful of that. If I suppose I want you to get into the mindset is that if eBay shuts down my full-time eBay store or my side hustle, and I need that side hustle to to fund something that I do in my everyday life, what can I do alternatively? And this is what we're trying to talk about. And like I said, Leanne's going to talk about her stuff on her channel. Blake's probably just going to keep wearing the bad facial hair that he's got, and I'm going to start doing those those like real world examples and all those different things. So what I'm going to do is start funneling eBay funds into these side projects, so I won't be out of my own pocket per se. So but yes,
but I would like to say, as sort of the tie up for this one, in case there's anyone there that has listened to what we've said today and they decide that they think that they're going to look into one of those side hustles before they watch next week, the one thing, keep in mind, you need to create a really good customer experience. So if there's any doubt in that, and I'm talking if you do think you're going to drop ship on eBay, which we're not going to recommend at all, if you do get your account banned, it's going to mean all your accounts are banned.
That's right.
Yep, and everyone in your household's accounts will be banned because everyone that sells from that IP address will get banned. So it's just something, but it's the customer experience. If you want to build your business, regardless of how many different things you're going to do, and build your whole persona or business up, you can't do that if your customers are getting crap or bed parcels or
So that would and I agree 110%. And that's something that I admitted, not by purpose but by accident when I was speaking about dropshipping, is that my customer service was up like about 400% on one of these selling products that I personally sourced myself, right? So because I didn't have control of that product, that even though that I had that express post option paid for me, sometimes Catch of the Day wouldn't ship a product for a week, where my handling time was a day or 2 days. So because if they ran out of that product, they would still sell it knowing that a shipment was coming next week, right? So then I'd have like Blake reaching out to me. He's like, "Hey, I bought this stuff a week ago. Where is it?" You kind of like, "Oh, no worries. I'll chase it up with Australia Post." And do that BS line that we normally result to. But like I said, my customer service, like from the moment that I woke up, it wasn't a side hustle and it wasn't passive. Like it was far from it. Like from what it was portrayed as, "Hey, look, you find a product, you sell it, and you be reigning in the money." The pay. Like I said, it was a lucrative business venture, but it was the stress and the constant like being on a knife edge with eBay, and like I said, with eBay reaching out and asking,
stressful,
like what's going on with the postcode discrepancies and all those different things. It wasn't worth it in the long run. Like I said, if you're looking at that, definitely go down the path of what Blake was suggesting, like Shopify or on your own website or something like that. Probably keep it off eBay unless you have an agreement, like a written agreement with that wholesaler or that business to say, "Hey, look, yes, Grumpy Granny is authorized to sell our products, and we'll ship them on her behalf." eBay's fine with that. Like if you go through the drop shipping on eBay, they're fine with that arrangement, but they're not fine with you drop shipping from Amazon or from Costco or Catch the Day and all these different things. So just be very, very, very mindful of those. So
that's right.
I haven't done it for many years, but like I said, they've just been very mindful from that perspective. Any podcast reviews this week, Grady?
No, you two. It's your turn this week.
I did listen to that. I don't know. I was going to go with the Black Tape Files. There you go. That'll do. What about you, Blake?
I haven't listened to any in the last week, so I've got nothing to say.
I did hear that Worst Reselling Podcast Ever was a pretty good podcast to listen to. Maybe
it is. Yeah,
I can subscribe to that one if you're that one. Next week, I don't know. We'll probably trash to cash next week, but otherwise, we'll see you again next week.
Bye.